This is Business Week Armenia, CivilNet's weekly economic digest. Here's what's making headlines in Armenia this week. After repeated delays, the Armenian government signed an agreement last week to take a minority stake in the long-stalled Amulsar gold mine project, whose operator, Lydian International, is now forecasting to begin production next year. In a press release, Economy Minister Gevorg Papoyan confirmed that the government now holds a 12.5% stake in the Amulsar gold mine, saying, "This is a mega project that will lead to the creation of more than 1,000 jobs and contribute taxes to the state budget," adding, "We believe in the success of this project." For his part, Haig Aloyan, the executive director of Lydian's Armenian subsidiary, said he now expects mining at the site to begin in the fourth quarter of next year. Amulsar, Armenia's second biggest gold deposit, has been embroiled in political controversy for years. Lydian first broke ground at Amulsar in 2016, but construction quickly stalled, and mining has still not started. After years of inaction, the government breathed new life into the project early last year, reaching a preliminary agreement with Lydian to move the project forward in exchange for a lucrative minority stake. Lydian's formal handover of shares came just a day after Finance Minister Vahe Hovhannisyan said the government is now considering providing a guarantee on any loans that the firm takes from Armenian banks to finance the final stages of construction at the mine. Lydian, which is ultimately owned by private equity firms in Canada and the United States, says it is ready to invest up to $100 million for that purpose, but that it needs an additional $150 million before mining can begin. Lydian had initially sought loans from the Russian-led Kazakhstan-based Eurasian Development Bank, but earlier this month, bank chair Nikolai Podguzov revealed the lender had declined to finance the project. He did not say how the bank had reached that decision. Armenian officials say the government stands to make up to $100 million every year in revenues and taxes if the Amulsar mine is finally put into operation. In other mining news, the Armenian government has earmarked $2.5 million to hire the Boston-based law firm Foley Hoag to defend it in a Washington, D.C. lawsuit challenging Russian oligarch Roman Trotsenko's 2021 takeover of the Zangezur copper-molybdenum combine, Armenia's largest mine. CivilNet's investigative team broke that news last week after reviewing publicly available finance ministry documents, which had not previously been reported. In June, Walnort Finance, a Cyprus-registered shell company that owns a 12.5% stake in the Zangezur mine, launched a historic $1.2 billion arbitration claim against the Armenian government at the World Bank's International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, the biggest lawsuit ever filed against the country. Walnort alleges that the government undertook a politically motivated campaign to deprive it of its legitimate shareholder rights when Trotsenko took over the mine and then immediately ceded a minority stake to the government in still unclear circumstances. The government has since increased its stake to nearly 22%. Earlier this month, Infrastructure Minister David Khudatian provided figures suggesting the government is owed dividends worth a total of about $165 million on earnings made on that stake through the end of last year. The compensatory damages Walnort is demanding are equal to just under a quarter of the Armenian government's total budget last year. In addition to the Zangezur mine suit, Foley Hoag is also representing Armenia in its racial discrimination cases against Azerbaijan at the United Nations International Court of Justice, as well as in Azerbaijan's landmark environmental damage suit against Armenia at the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Those cases, all filed in The Hague, remain ongoing. And in energy news, Armenian government regulators last week approved a new investment plan for Gazprom, paving the way for the Russian state-owned energy giant to pour nearly $360 million into the country over the next 5 years. In a statement, the Public Services Regulatory Commission confirmed it had greenlit the program, which will see Gazprom expand and modernize its natural gas storage facilities and distribution networks across Armenia, starting next year. A long-standing arrangement between the Armenian government and Gazprom, which holds a monopoly on the country's gas network, allows Yerevan to buy gas from Moscow at a price of $165 per 1,000 cubic meters, far below international market value. Last year, Russia pumped some 2.7 billion cubic meters of gas into Armenia, according to official figures, accounting for about 87% of Armenia's total gas imports. The remainder came from Iran under a long-term gas for electricity swap deal with that country. The agreement granting Gazprom exclusive rights to distribute gas across Armenia runs through 2043, while the energy swap deal with Iran is in force until 2030. Armenia has no oil or natural gas reserves of its own, making it reliant on imports for the majority of its energy. And as always, please follow CivilNet for the latest news and independent reporting from our contributors on the ground here in Armenia.